So this is the title that I was very kindly given by Simon, and we're going to explore the practicalities of parish finance and the interface with good parish stewardship. Might go a little bit off piece, but I'll do my very best, guys. So the aim of what I want you to receive today is really to gain a basic understanding of the statutory, and I couldn't say this ever, Simon, please help, canonical framework of church accounting. I want you to get a brief understanding of what fund accounting for churches and charities is. I want you to have a brief understanding of receipts and payments accounts versus accruals accounts. And I want you to understand how to read a set of church accounts. And then hopefully we will be able to bring this all together with the importance of clergy leadership in good parish stewardship. So that's what I aim to deliver today. I've said basic because I've been learning accounting for 25 years. I say, well, 30 actually. I say learning because every day is still a learning day for me. Okay. So if all you pick up from today is a couple of terms, a couple of words that you recognise when you get into parishes, so that you can say, oh yeah, I remember Sharon mentioned something about them, that will be enough of a starting point. Okay. So the statutory and canonical, dear me, framework of church accounting. Jenny, you're going to have to give me a masterclass on that later, okay?
On canonical.
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 Canonical. It took me 5 years to say ecclesiastical. No, right, canonical. Okay, so this is what a parish looks like in the diocese, okay? So under church rep rules, this is what you look like. So if we look at the parish here, the priest in charge, incumbent, okay, is the head of the parochial church council, okay? You are the chairperson, if you will, okay? And as you can see here, you feed down into the PCC and the standing and finance committees, okay? And the PCC runs and guides all of the mission, the youth work, the mission, the worship, okay? The fabric of the building, looks after the grants and social fundraising. Now, what's a little bit sad for me is for a priest in charge, the worship is quite a small part of this. So you do have to understand how we look after the fabric, how we look after the grants, and how we look after social fundraising, etc. Okay, so that's the general picture of a PCC in a parish and what it looks like. Now, we're coming back to canonical framework, okay? Every PCC is governed by the Parochial Church Council's Measure 1956 and the Church Representation Rules. And as you can see, this has been it's been around for many years, and it's a nice, pretty thick book with every single rule that every PCC member and incumbent has to really abide by. It is the rule book, okay? But there are 11 parts to the church rep rules, okay? I'm not going to talk to you about all 11 of them, but they are here for you. We'll just brief over them. There is part 1 will tell you all about how to run the church electoral roll, who is allowed to be part of the church, etc. Part 2 talks about parish governance. Part 3 will tell you everything that you need to know about deanery synods, and Part 4, diocesan synods. Part 5 tell you about House of Laity, General Synod. Part 6, appeals. Number 7, Part 7 will talk about disqualifications. Everything that you need to know. Number 8, obviously, we've always got a miscellaneous part, haven't we? So that tells you everything that wasn't captured anywhere else. And then we've got part 9, which is, again, parish governance, model rules. So that's the rule for looking after your PCC. Part 10 will talk to you all about forms and what you need to use. And then we've got a nice little index. But the bit that's important to us here today is parish governance. Okay. So part 9 of the Church Rep rules contains the model rules for the parish governance. These provide for matters such as annual and other parochial church meetings, elections, and members of parochial PCCs and deanery synods, the composition and business of PCCs, and the making of schemes for joint council for connected parishes. The model rules will apply automatically unless a parish makes schemes under Rule 12 to amend or supplement or replace the model rules. So this basically is your terms and reference. This is what you as a PTC, when I say you as a PTC, I don't mean you personally, I mean you being the PCC. This is what you have to run your business by. So that's the church representation rules. And again, they are vast and wide, and I'm not going to talk to you in detail about them, but at some point between now and retirement, I'm sure you will take some time to read these. Until then, we'll just pick out elements of them as we go along. Now, the reason that I'm parking the church rep rules there is because, more importantly for me, and something that we do, the legality, the legal aspect, is that every PCC is also a charity. Okay. And as a charity, we are governed by a whole host of different regulations. But basically what has happened is the Charity Commission have embedded in law the Charities Act, which is changed over time, continuously changes. Okay. And the church representation rules have read into that and prepared their own rules, which sit side by side. So we always have to be considering the church rep rules, and we always have to be considering the Charity Commission guidance. Importantly, Charity Commission guidance is the one that we can be prosecuted for if we don't comply with. Okay. So we are governed by statutory legislation, okay, which forms part of the Charity Act, and it is managed and disseminated by the Charity Commission for England and Wales. So that is always going to be my starting point, Charity Commission. And I can't express that enough. Start with the Charity Commission and work upwards. Okay, so this message that a PCC is a charity is one that is often not fed down to PCC members. And that is because if you are a charity, you often have to report directly to the Charity Commission. And you will be given the Charity Commission a charity number, and every time you you fill out a bank form or a grant form, you'll be asked for your charity number, your charity registration number. And when people have, or when members of trustees of charities know that they have a charity number, they often recognise that they are a registered charity and that as a member, they are trustees. But the Church of England and a few other charities under this bracket are what is known as an accepted charity, right? And an accepted charity, other people within this bracket are people like Girl Guides, the Scouts, some army organisations. There's a couple of other church denominations that sit under this group. But basically, there's that many of these groups within England and Wales that the Charity Commission do not have the capacity to register everybody. So they have singled them out and said, well, a higher organisation will look after them, and we're going to call them accepted charities. Does that make sense to everybody so far? Please bear in mind, this makes perfect sense to me. If it doesn't to you, just put a note in the comments box, and hopefully I'll see them, or put your hand up. Okay. So accepted charities means that for us as the Church of England, your diocese will take on the role of the Charity Commission to a particular point. Everything that you do would need to be reported to your diocese. So the diocese will need to receive annually a copy of your accounts. It will need to receive a copy of your trustees' annual report. Okay, it will need to be told about any extraordinary issues that you have in your parish. It will need to be told about non-compliance. It then might be escalated to the Charities Commission depending on what your diocese deems to be appropriate. Okay, but I've just talked about as being an accepted charity, but there is a point that every parish PCC will register as a charity and receive its own charity number. And that is relating to the levels of income of the PCC, right? If you've got income of less than £100,000, you can stay as an accepted charity. If you've got income over £100,000, you must register with the Charity Commission. Now, this legislation is changing, and the Charity Commission have recognised now that it is very difficult for other people outside of the charity structure to understand what an accepted charity is. Banks, for example, do not understand it. So it's very wise to get all PCCs registered. And there is a move to get all PCCs registered by 2031. Now, up until recently, you weren't allowed to register if your income was significantly below £100,000. But they are now suggesting, the Charity Commission are now suggesting that if you would like to be registered as a charity, go ahead and get registered because there's so many more benefits for you. Okay. But I think I certainly know that most of my PCCs fit into the accepted charity category, and therefore, rather than report directly to Charity Commission, they report to me. It's annual income of £100,000, and that for a PCC runs between the 1st of January and the 31st of December. That is their annual, that is your financial year. If your PCC is doing anything differently, they are doing it wrong, because that is set out in the church representation rules that is the financial year. Now, there is a thought about this £100,000 that if you know that you're going to go over it at some point in the course of the year, you can register on that basis. And of course, some years you might be over it. And, you know, if you had a big fundraising project, you might go over the £100,000, and in which case you would need to register, or you would need to write to the Charity Commission and say, this is a one-off, I don't want to register, but I'm letting you know. The benefit of registering is that it gives you an extra layer of compliance in the first instance. So you will need to make sure that all your trustees are fit and proper people to be charity trustees. It will give you standards by which to prepare your accounts from and your reports from, but it will also, it will give you this magic number which is your charity registration number. And as I said to you before, when you go to a bank nowadays and they say, and want to open a new bank account, without that magic charity number, it can take months. You can go to some suppliers and tell them that you're a charity, but without the magic number, they've no idea that you're really a charity. Because what happens is, I might be in the bank and I come along and I say, right, well, what's your charity number? I look into your charity number. I go onto Charity Commission. It will tell me everything about you. It will tell me your income, your expenditure, it will tell me your governance structure. It will tell me who your trustees are. It will tell me who you bank with. It will tell me everything. It will tell me if you have reported any incidents. It will tell me if you have reported all your accounts properly and on time, all of that information. So as somebody, either a banker or even a grant funder, importantly, if I'm looking to provide you with a grant, I want to know that you really are working well as a charity. And if you've got that magic charity number, then that really is the benefit. PCCs across our diocese that are working together, because the form actually isn't as daunting as it seems. It's a gathering exercise more than a form completing exercise, and every trustee on the PCC will need to fill out their own form as well. So it's an information gathering exercise at this point. But I would be encouraging somebody else on the PCC to share the burden with the treasurer.
Okay, thank you.
Right. But don't do it yourself, because it's not your responsibility either. It's the whole PCC. So this slide that I've got in front of you now is one that I take to PCCs on a regular basis and shock them with, because most PCC members don't know that they are charity trustees. They know that they go to church, they know why they go to church, and in their minds, the reason they sit on the PCC is to further the work of the church. But nobody, and this is the feedback that I get, nobody told us we were going to be a charity trustee. Nobody. So when I turn up with this little slide, it's a bit of a shock to the system. But this is a really, it's a really interesting, very helpful document, really, that I can share with you. And in fact, it's on the Charity Commission website. But this is what we have to do as charity trustees. So we have to comply with our charity governing document and the law. And I think that's important, because some PCC members do believe that the church can be slightly above the law, but it's not. We have to comply with the regulations as set out. We have to make sure that our charity stroke PCC is accountable for everything that it does, and it's accountable for every penny that it spends. And we have to act with reasonable care and skill. I don't know if you can see the bottom of my screen. We need to ensure that the charity is carrying out its purpose for public benefit. Okay, so do we provide a benefit for the whole public? So the whole of our community, are we there for everybody, not just the people who turn up at church on a Sunday or once a month, for the whole community? And do we act in the charity's best interest? So are the decisions that we make at PCC the best decisions we can possibly make? And here's the one that I just love, is, do we manage the charity's resources responsibly? So if the only thing that you remember is this lovely colourful jigsaw, and you look for it at some point in the future, and you are able to share this message with your PCC to get them thinking about these topics, that's great. As soon as people understand that they have to act as charity trustees, it does shift how they behave. very, very much so. And they will start to think about, like you say, the three quotes. And there is, historically, there has been this, well, yeah, we've got the money, it's what we want to do, let's do it. Without understanding the financial consequences of some of their actions as well. Okay, right. So that's charities really in a bit of a nutshell. Now, I can go on to talk to you about charity governance, but that's a whole different ball game on top of this, and that can take a couple of hours in itself. So charity governance is something that once you've understood that and you as an incumbent are also the charity trustee because you're the chairperson, so once you've understood that, then moving on to at some point charity governance, well, that's really exciting, I think, but that's just not for today, but that's something that you need to think about. I've done it again. Okay, so I'm going to talk to you now about some concepts within charity finance, and some of the, as I said to you before, what I aim for you to take away from today is just some recognition of words at some points in the future. So on the screen now, we've got receipts and payments, accounts, and accruals accounting, and they're two different types of accounting that as a PCC we may use to prepare our accounts. Now, this is what receipts and payments look like. Okay. Receipts and payments, and whether you use receipts and payments or whether you use accruals accountings depends on your revenue, so your income. And importantly, and this is slightly the wrong way around this picture, but if your income is less than £250,000, you can use prepare a set of receipts and payments accounts. All right. If it is more than £250,000, you prepare and have to prepare a set of accruals accounts. Now, your receipts and payments accounts, the preparation of them is based on when you receive your money and when you pay your money. So you receive your cash today, you make your payment by check today, with income of less than £250,000, you can prepare a set of receipts and payments accounts. Okay. Compliance is with a document called CC16B. It is a checklist of what you should or shouldn't do. Very simple. And you would have to prepare a trustee's annual report. Now, just ignoring accruals account for the moment, the best way that I can describe receipts and payments accounts to you guys is it is exactly the same as running your own bank account. You get money in, that's your receipt, you make your payments, that's your expense, and what you've got left at the end of the month, period, year, whatever, is your surplus or your deficit. Okay, simple terms for us as individuals, if we have got surplus, we've got money left in the bank. If we have got a deficit, i.e. our expenses were more than our income, we have either used our reserves, in our personal context, our savings, or for us, we've borrowed some money from somewhere, we've had a loan, or we've used our overdraft facility. Okay. PCCs don't have overdraft facilities and can't take loans. So it's important from the very outset, they are thinking about building up their surpluses so that if their expenses do go over their income, do exceed their income, that they're able to draw on the savings. Okay. We'll just park that for a moment. Accruals accounts is based on when you earn your money. So, for example, if you had a grant of £100,000 spread over a couple of years, and you earned £50,000 in one year and £50,000 in another, you would apply £50,000 of income to one accounting period and £50,000 to another. And the same with expenses. Okay, when you incur that expense, that is when you would report that in your account. For example, if you bought a photocopier and it was, you paid for it over you paid for it on day one, cost you £5,000, but actually the life of that machine was going to cost you 5 years, or would last 5 years. You'd apply £1,000 per year to your account over a 5-year period. Okay, now we do not want to prepare accruals accounts unless we absolutely must. And the reason for that is because if we are preparing accruals accounts, we must comply with the latest SORP, Statement of Recommended Practice. Okay. And I can tell you from my experience of what I have seen in my diocese, not many people prepare a set of accruals accounts that comply with the SORP. And if we're not complying with the SORP, it's non-compliance, basically. And we're not doing things right. So the first thing that we need to think about is how do we prepare our receipts, our accounts, on what basis? And that sort of feeds on really to what do we then do when we have produced our accounts? Now we have to have every set of accounts examined, and this is a bit of a funny church representation rules here. In charity law, depending on your level of income, you don't have to have some sets of accounts examined. But church representation rules say that every PCC must have their accounts independently examined or audited. And with everything accounting, it's all to do with the level of income in the PCC. Okay. So so we're always wanting to drive for the easiest set of accounts that we can prepare. And the reason we need to be doing that really is to reduce the burden on the treasurer or the finance team. Because if we're asking them to produce a big complicated set of accounts, it's time consuming, they might not have the ability. So we need to pare these accounts down to the absolute bog basic that we can get away with. So independence examination, if we have got income of less than £1 million, they can be independently examined. I'm not sure many parishes will have income in excess of £1 million. So most people can be independently examined. Okay, now a bit further down this list, it does say that income of less than £250,000 can be examined by an independent person. An income of £250,000 must be examined by a member of an accounting body. So you're looking for an accountant there, really. Somebody who's, I'm just going to give you some examples. You might hear the words AAT qualified, CIPFA qualified, ACCA qualified. There's lots of accounting bodies, not just a chartered accountant, that will fit that bill. Okay. So going back to our receipts and payments, we want to be fitting really into this bracket if we can. Receipts and payments, independent examination. Now, that's not me saying, and please recognize this, that's not me saying keep your income below £100,000 or below £250,000. If you're exceeding those limits, then you must comply with the rules. And if you are exceeding those limits, that is amazing. So embrace it. Okay. So just briefly talk to you about independent person at this point. What is an independent person? It is somebody that is not related to the PCC, and members of the PCC, and is not related to the person who is preparing the accounts. It is somebody who is independent. Now, I cannot examine a set of accounts for anybody in my diocese. The reason I can't is because they come to me for me to then review post-examination. So therefore, I'm not wholly independent, but I could potentially examine accounts in another diocese for another parish. Now, people, treasurers in parishes can examine accounts for other parishes in their diocese because they're independent. People from your congregation could be your examiner, but the bookkeeper stroke treasurer's niece, nephew, auntie, uncle can't, because they're not independent. They're not able to form an independent opinion. One of the things that I've recognised this year is, as you said, people who have got a fiscal background become very dominant over a set of accounts because they understand what's going on. And that can cause quite a lot of animosity, particularly for a new incumbent arriving in the parish, or a first incumbent arriving in the parish. And it's all about having gentle conversation, really. And it's all about, I think, if we started off with getting the PTC to recognise that they are responsible for the accounts of the PCC and they are trustees, so that the conversations are starting right in the beginning, and then you're not turning up and going, right, somebody told me that accruals accounts is not the best way forward. We'll move on to receipts, and don't let it be your discussion. Let it be the PCC thinking about how they move forward. One of the things that we have been looking at in our diocese is how to prepare a parish for the arrival of a new incumbent, because these are very difficult conversations. Are you preparing your accounts in the right basis? That can break a PCC. It really can. So we aim to have those conversations before and just sort of prepare the groundwork for new incumbents. But yeah, I think trying to get the PCC on board is the best way forward. And one of the things about people with a fiscal background, they do tend to be retired. And one of the comments I get very regular is, I am a retired accountant, don't you know? And my response is, that is really, really good. I'm a working accountant and I'm up to date with my current regulations. Are you? And often they'll say, well, actually, Sharon, now you've mentioned it, I haven't kept in touch with it for the last 20 years. So we have to be very careful of that. And we also have to be very careful that people with a fiscal background will dominate people who don't have one, because historically it's been a case, I'll do it, you don't understand, you do the other bits, I'll do the finance bits. But we all have to take responsibility. Jenny, do you want to make any comments at that point?
Not at the moment, thanks, Sharon.
Right. So another concept that I want you to sort of think about is something called fund accounting. So we've talked about the income and the expenditure. Fund accounting is to do with how we manage our pots of income and our pots of expenditure. Okay. And within our income and expenditure, there are 4 types of funds. The first type is unrestricted funds. And these are the funds that the trustees are able to spend for any of the charity's charitable purposes. Okay, unrestricted. We then go on to designated. Designated funds are part of unrestricted funds, which the trustees have set aside or earmarked. You might have heard the word ring-fenced. Earmarked to be used for a particular purpose. They are not legally distinct funds, and trustees can at any time redesignate them for other purposes, and they should be shown as part of unrestricted funds. Restricted funds. These are funds that the trustees are obliged to spend only on particular purposes set out by the donor or in an appeal document, and these particular purposes are narrower than the charity's objects. And then we have endowment funds. And these are funds that the charity is prohibited by the governing document from spending as income. Normally, these will be investments, but may also be property held as endowment for use by the charity. The investment receipts must be spent for the purpose indicated in the governing document. These are 2 forms of endowment: permanent endowment or expendable endowment. Okay, so endowment is slightly different to all of the other ones. It's a pot of money that you've been given. Okay, you can't spend the capital, but you can spend the income from it. Okay. And the other 3 are funds that you would hear regular in PCCs. Okay, so we're going to look a little bit closer at unrestricted funds and what these funds do, because this again is a hot topic in PCCs because they don't quite understand the different terminology. So £100, somebody's come along, give you £100 donation. Here you go, is £100. And you can apply this £100 for any of your purposes. So here we've got a cafe, a drop-in centre. We've got worships in church. We've got the men's group, children's worship. We have got £100 to spend as we please. Okay, that might be £100 to one purpose, 25 to another, however it comes. Okay. Designated funds is when we have been given our £100 and we decide, right, we're going to put a little bit of it to our cafe, our drop-in cafe, a little bit more of it to church events, some more to the Saturday gardening group, and some of it to children's ministry. But ultimately, that £100 is still our £100, and if we chose not to spend it on that particular purpose, we don't have to. Okay, so yeah, go on, Sam. So if we had applied £100, £25 to the drop-in kitchen, okay, and actually we only spent 20 quid, we can then say, well, we'll just spend the £5 on children's ministry. We'll just add that to a different pot. Okay, We don't have to hold that £5 until we get more money so that we can do more mission in that area. Okay. Restricted funds is when the donor has given us a particular amount, £100, and they have told us that we can only spend this money because it's a book token, so we can only spend it on books. So we're stuck. Okay. If we're given a book token, we can't go and buy gardening equipment with it. We can only buy books. So,
Sorry.
right. So unrestricted, I give you £100 and say to you, do whatever you want with it. And you say, right, well, we've got all of these activities happening in church. We'll put it into general fund and we'll just spend. Okay. You do whatever you want with it. Designated is when I've given you £100 and as a PCC, you say, we've received £100 from Sharon. How should we apply it? We're going to apply it. We're going to put some of it for gardening, some of it for children's ministry. I mean, 100 quid's not going far, but you know what I mean. Some of it for children's ministry. You might say, well, actually, we're going to apply it all for children's ministry. So it is an unrestricted donation that you have chosen to set aside for a particular purpose.